Welcome. This is the classic game, World War One: Paths of Glory. Mark and I are going to play, and we've played this game 4 or 5 times. I have yet to win. Mark is an expert player. Um, I am going to play the Central Powers in this game, and I'm going to go with a classic strategy where I do play the Guns of August first and attempt to have both stacks here that are already marked with attack markers um, in Liege and Koblenz to attack Sedan with a flanking attack to try and get the advantage early on and hopefully take no losses. And then roll on, try to eliminate the BEF and try to pressure Paris. Before, and Mark is classic at this, using the Russians to pressure the Germans and take Prussia, Königsberg, Danzig, and Posen. Um, One of the things I've learned over time is the German units in Insterberg, they're kind of hanging out there. And if the Russian gets aggressive and moves forward into Warsaw, Plock, and in Lomza goes to Königsberg, you can cut off the Germans. I almost think that's an ahistorical thing, but maybe it actually happened. I don't know. I'm hoping Mark doesn't remember that. And then I might have an opportunity to take my German corps and move here, 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 and up to then protect and back the Germans into Königsberg or maybe to Tannenberg because they're hanging out there. So, so that's my first thoughts. We'll see how it goes. I'll be drawing up 6 cards because the Guns of August card has been played for my 7 and should be an interesting. So I'm a little new at multitasking in Paths of Glory because I'm trying to record at the same time, maintain a log file, and conduct my turn. So what I've done here is I have noted that the dual stack German stack, Central Power stack in Liege, and the single unit in Koblenz. Liege will be the main attacking force, and Koblenz will be the pinning force in an attempted flank attack against the French army in Sedan. I rolled a 4. I have to roll between 4 and 6 because I have one space as a pinning. I get a +1 DRM, so the effective die rolls 5. You have to roll between 4 and 6. So I am successful in my flank attack, and so I will have 15, 5 plus 5 plus 5 in the fire table that I get as a result of the successful flank attack. I get to conduct that first. So I'll put the table up in front for you viewers at home. It is on the 15 stack, and my die roll will be a 2, which is 5 units. I was hoping for 4 through 6 to give me 7, but I got 5. So um, I will flip for the first 3, and since the loss factor on the French is 3, and I only have 2 left, those 2 losses are ignored, which is why I was hoping for a 50% chance of rolling a 7. Now, the benefit of the flank attack is rather than rolling on the 5 table, the French will roll on the 2 table. So hopefully they'll get a roll between 1 and 4, which means I won't have to flip anything. So here we go with the French roll. And of course, they roll a 2. So that's not too bad. On the 2 table, a roll of 2 is 1 loss. I've got 3s across the board, so I will take no losses. That is great news for the Germans. And the French need to retreat 2 spaces. This is where Mark will probably do it, but I'll make an attempt, best av, and then he can correct. So I will have the French go 1, and then 2 to go to Chateau Thierry. And my advance will be the unit in Koblenz will advance to Sedan. And just to double check, I have a contiguous line. Don't want to leave a space for him to run through. So that would then complete my turn, and I will clean up my markers. I'll delete that facing. I'll delete that marker, and that's what I'm left with. And so now it will go back to Mark for his turn 1.
The lamps are going out all over Europe as Doug and Mark from Battlefield Banter take on the classic Paths of Glory by GMT Games, Ted Raicer's classic game on the entirety of the World War One theatre, I should say. I can't even. I don't. I have the map up here. It's as large as I can make it, but there's more down the bottom here. I'm down the bottom right there. You see neutral Turkey, who has not entered the map yet. Neutral country, no entry permitted. But down in the bottom, you can see below Serbia we have Bulgaria. There is Turkey on the main map and Turkey on the inset map. We have Romania over here, and Italy remain neutral. But at the moment, the central powers, that being Germany and Austria-Hungary, the Empire of Austria-Hungary, have declared war on the Triple Entente: Russia, Great Britain, and France. And Germany has kicked off the proceedings with an attack through Belgium, which triggered Britain's entry into the war, the invasion of Belgium's neutrality. And so Doug's already played his first card, and which is because we're playing the tournament scenario, the historical scenario, he is forced to play the Guns of August card, and he's done his damage over here in the Western Front by kicking the French Fifth Army out of Sudan. This is a little bit different to the way Doug's video left things, because the Allies played, if I move down here, they played this card from their hand, the Withdrawal Combat card. Doug neglected to give me the opportunity to play a combat card, but what this does is defending units will negate one required core step, and if there was not a core step, which there was not, then they can negate an entire army step. So, and then withdraw. So the French Third Army Fifth Army, took advantage of that over here and fell back in good order from Sedan. And now let's take a look at, well, first of all, let's have a look around this really fantastic vassal module. You've got how to play here. The AP hand reveals the British cards, and so let's take a quick look at those actually while we're on that subject. The AP hand there. There we go. Let's see if we can make those a little bit bigger for you. You can see the Allies have drawn 8 cards. Again, that's a tournament scenario rule, and played one of them. That's why this is blank on the right here. That was my combat card, and this is what I have been dealt with. The hand I have been dealt, you might say, for the first turn of the game. We have Moltke over here. Is an event where Moltke will have a crisis of confidence and will cause the Germans to make their moves a lot more expensive. Reinforcements cards cannot be played in turn 1, so they will be played for the 2 points, this mobilization of Russian reinforcements and this other mobilization of Russian reinforcements on the far right. They cannot be played for the event. The blockade card with the 2 here does move the war track along such that the Allied player does get access to a mid-war and then a late-war deck of cards, more powerful cards. So that is something which at some point it will have to be played for the event, but for the time being, I think, given that is my strongest card of 4 4 points. I think that one will probably be the card I'm playing this turn to stabilize the Western Front. And then a couple more small ones here, 2s and 2s, they're also combat cards. So that's a quick look at the Allied power cards. Moving back to the main scene, Doug has already rolled for the mandatory offensives. So you can see in the German mandatory offensive table on in the top of the screen here, the Germans have already taken their mandatory offensive, and so that has been moved back to the made position, and Doug will not be, the Central Powers will not be penalized for not taking their mandatory offensive. And then down on the Allied side, it landed in the British. The British have to take a mandatory offensive, but for the early going, the French take over this role, so the French have to actually take a mandatory offensive at some point in this turn, some point in the next 6 actions. Otherwise, the Allies will take a 1 VP penalty. So let's have a look at what the British and the French and the Russians are going to do. I think, as I alluded to earlier, I am going to play my strongest card, the 4 card, also known as the blockade card. So down here at the bottom of the vassal module, the cards being played show up in the discard pile there. This is the card I'm playing it for the 4 points, not for the event. And I'm going to click through my log because I've already played this log prior to making up the video, because it just to make things go a little faster. So what's going to happen with the first 2 points? There's going to be an attack against the invading German Third Army in Sedan over on the Western Front, and we're going to try and plug the hole in the French lines there. So this will allow a flank attack, because I have more than, well, 1 army will be the assaulting force and 1 will be the pinning force, so I will have an opportunity to roll for a flank attack with a +1 DRM. And over on the Eastern Front, in Tarnopol over here, it does seem in order to take pressure off the Western Front, the Russians have to do something fairly early on. So the 8th Army, Russian 8th Army, and the Russian Third Army are going to assault and try again to get another flank attack advantage against the Austria-Hungarian Third Army. And so that is all the 4 attack markers placed, and you can see in the log here the ops count has moved to 4 as tracking how many ops I have, and if I was to inadvertently place a 5th attack marker or a move marker, then the text would turn red, indicating that I had overstepped the bounds of the card I'd played. Alright, so this is the attack against the Third Army here, and the first thing we will do is we will roll for a flanking attack. And so at some point in this log there will be a dice roll. There it is. It is a 3. So a 3 plus 1, because I have 1 army in flanking attack position, makes it a 4, which barely scrapes by, and I am successful and do have a flanking attack, which means the Russians can attack first and then inflict losses before the Austro-Hungarian army, the Third Army, can reply. Here we are zoomed in on the scene of the action, the battlefield at Tarnopol. The Russians have achieved a successful flank attack, and just to go into that in a little bit more detail, my explanation earlier wasn't too clear. You need a pinning army, which in this case will be the Russian 8th Army, which has a direct link to the target, the attack, the force being attacked in Tarnopol. And then another army which also has a direct link to the army being attacked, but is not adjacent to any other Austro-Hungarian army. So that's why this force here, has to be the pinning force, because it is adjacent to this Austro-Hungarian corps in Czernowitz. So it is the pinning army, and this guy is the assaulting. I believe that's the correct term. So I get, for each assaulting force, I get a +1 DRM. So in this case, there is only one, so there's +1 DRM to this roll. Now, after the flank attack roll is achieved, then combat cards are played. Quick look at my combat cards. I do in fact have a relevant combat card. This one here, Pleve. Russian units get +1 DRM for an attack or a defense. Well, they're on the attack, so I'd like to give them a +1 DRM, so I will play that card. And then, just going back to the main scene here. Now we will do the resolve the attack itself. So the dice roll is a 3, as you can see in the log. There's the 3 + 1 is a 4. And that is an attack strength of 6 and a roll of 4. So looking at the army fire table on the top right there, we see we have achieved 4 losses. It's 6 to 8 factors firing, and the losses we've inflicted on the Austro-Hungarians are 4. So back to the main scene. The loss factor of the Third Army there is, the middle number is 2. So flipping that army would absorb 2 of the losses, and then flipping it again, which eliminates it and replaces it with a corps, will absorb the other 2 loss factors which were inflicted, so a total of 4, and that is the result of that combat. Now the Austro-Hungarians can fire back, but the problem is they are now a corps, so they will be rolling on the corps table, and the maximum damage they can do, even if they were to roll a 6, is they could inflict a 1 loss factor damage to the Russians, which would not do any harm at all to either Russian army. So that is that Russian attack over with, except for retreat. And the retreat rules are very flexible in this. They can retreat, this army here can retreat 1, 2, or it could retreat 1, 2, or it cannot go 1, 2 and retreat back and end up where it started. But so let's say it goes 1 and 2, and then Doug can adjust that as he wishes. And then the main key thing, one of the key things about this game, is to make sure you always maintain a solid front line, such that the enemy cannot break through and put your units out of supply, because supply is critical in this game. So the Third Army will advance rather than the 8th Army there. The Third Army will advance to maintain a solid line against the Austro-Hungarians. All right, and then moving over to the Western Front, we have the attacking French, the 3rd, 4th Army from Verdun, along with the 5th Army, are attacking into Sedan. And so that is another opportunity for the French to unleash a flanking attack. So let's see how they do. Again, they have a +1 DRM, but they need at least, I think, greater than 4 to have a successful flank attack. And here the roll will be coming up at some point in the log. There it is. It's a 1. So 1 + 1 for the DRM is a 2, so the flanking attack is unsuccessful. And this means that the Germans will have will get in there first with a failed flanking attack is quite disastrous, and the Germans will attack first. So here is and this assumes no combat cards being played. I have none to play. If Doug has any to play, then he would stop the log after the flanking attack roll, and he would jump in there and play a combat card. So let's see how Doug does with his attack roll. He rolls a 4. So that is with a 5 attack strength for the German Third Army. He has rolled a 4. So let's quickly go back to the combat tables. This will be the Army combat table. 5 factors of firing. He's rolled a 4. He has inflicted 4 losses on the French. Oops, wrong one. So the French, their armies all have 3 loss factors, so one of these armies is going to have to flip, and I do not have a combat card this time around to prevent that. So the French Third Army in Verdun, stacked with the Fourth Army and in trenches, is the one that takes the hit. And then the Allied powers now strike back, and they have a total of 3 from the Fifth Army and 3 and 2, 5 from the Fourth Army and Third Army, combined total of 8. So they will be rolling on the 6 to 8 column, and their roll is a 6. So going back again to the Army table, on the 6 to 8 column, rolling a 6. It's as good as they could do. They inflicted 5 losses on the Germans. Too bad, really, that the flank attack wasn't successful, but there you go, 5 losses. And the German army can absorb 3 loss factors, so will flip. The Third Army will flip. And that is all it needs to do. The other 2 losses are just wasted, because I would need to have inflicted 6 losses to make to eliminate the third German army. But the German army does need to retreat. Needs to retreat again 2 hexes, and so it has no option, but the first hex has to be to Liège, and then it has to go 1 more. At that point, it could go to Koblenz or Aachen, but or actually it could retreat to Metz and then go to Koblenz. So a few options there for Doug to choose from. I will select. That's my end of my log file where I forgot to retreat Doug. So I will select. I'll move him back to Metz and then to Koblenz, and then the French will not advance into Sedan, because Sedan is a little bit of a death trap, as it is surrounded by 1, 2, 3 German units. So they would get a +2 DRM for a flank attack roll, which is almost guaranteed to be successful. So they would roll first. They would roll also with a lot of firepower. So we are not moving into Sedan, and we will leave it like that. And we have already moving down to the mandatory offensive, which I believe is. Did I skip past it? The British mandatory offensive has been. There it is. Over here has been met, so this marker has been moved to the appropriate side, so it will not incur a 1 VP penalty. And again, the markers have been removed, and it is back to Doug for his second card play. And just one more point, you can see the action markers here on this excellent vassal module. They track what the 6 actions of the players, because it's just like the game, the actual physical copy of the game. There are some actions where, if you, for example, play a replacement card, you cannot play back-to-back replacement cards. So that's what these chits and this table is for, and this is all done for you in the module. All right. So with that, it is back to Doug.
So here we are in GMT's Paths of Glory, a great strategic World War One game. As an aside, currently reading Winston Churchill's six-volume opus, um, the the World Crisis, um, on the same thing. And I guess what I would say, as we've seen here in the first turn of Paths of Glory, what a slog. As a review, I had done a flanking attack from Liège and Koblenz into Sedan and did a pretty good job of knocking the French army out of that square and hit them hard. But in Mark's attack back, he knocked my army and took three hits, flipped the army basically, and now I'm back in Koblenz. So much for the initial Schieffelin plan. Um, so I've already played my log, so I'm going to kind of go through and try and give you an idea of what we're going on. I will try through the magic of technology, show you. Oh, here we go. Show you what I've got. Let me make that a little bit bigger in terms of my cards. What I've got here to play. Um, Note uh, on the first turn, you're not allowed to play reinforcements. And part of my big strategy is to get my reinforcements on the board just as absolutely as I can and try to go for a knockout blow against the BEF as well as the French, get as many spots as I can, entrench, and then move my armies over to Russia and try and knock Russia out of the war. One note, I did not draw up the correct number of cards. So let me start clicking through the log file and you will be able to see what occurred. Um, let's see, what do we got? Here, oh, good. There's my card. So now I'm able to pull a second German reinforcements, which is better than the first one. Because I'm going to try to save those cards as I move into turn two. You can only play one reinforcement card per country. So I'd only be able to play in turn two one German reinforcements and one Austria Hungary. So I'll probably want to play one of those cards. So as we continue to click through the log, um, oh, well, what I did there is actually played the German reinforcements for 4 OPS. So I'm marking up, I'm moving, and I'm attacking. So I moved my wounded army in Koblenz down to Metz, and the two armies in Metz I moved over to Sedan. Um, So I've actually got one action point left. We'll see. I did the attack here. Um, and what we can see is I rolled with pretty good die rolls, rolled to where I took 7 losses, total losses. So I believe that resulted in a flip and then another flip to take 3, and then the core that remained. And remember, the BEF cannot be reconstituted; they're gone forever. So I've got a wounded core there, and then it goes back, and I advance in with both of those armies uh, into Brussels because I've already moved into Sedan, which I had controlled. So I've still got a line of units there. The folks in Antwerp can only go through Brussels. They can't go directly to Germany. And there's the end of the log. So
This is where all the action will be. This turn, the British have fallen back to Calais here, and big hole in the line. British in the Allies in rough shape here. So to respond, we'll have a look at the cards here. The cards. I don't have a. It would have been really good to be able to play Molka, which would slow down the Germans, of course. But at this point, I feel that there are too many holes in the line, or the big hole in the line around Chateau Thierry is too big to let them just run wild. So I'm going to play the Russian reinforcements card. And let's see, as before, I've already played this log. So the Russian reinforcements is selected down in the discard pile there. Three ops, playing for the ops, and so that allows me to respond, and it'll be purely in the Western Front this time to try and salvage the situation. The French are going to launch a counterattack in the Metz area. The Ninth Army will move to Chateau Thierry to hold the line against the German Fourth and Fifth Army, still full strength, so that's a powerful force there. But to distract them a little bit, the French will be attacking. If I can get these markers lined up, there we go. These armies here will be attacking into Metz. So we have a 5 attack strength there, plus another 6 here is 11. There is no possibility of a flanking attack because both attacking French attacks are they're adjacent to the target, of course, but they're also adjacent to other German units. So they will just be rolling on the 11 table, but except for the fact that Metz has entrenchments, so they will be rolling as one column shift to the left. So instead of the 9 to 11 column, they'll be rolling on the 6 to 8 column. The Germans in Metz are depleted, strength of 3, but they add to their defense the strength of the fortification in Metz, which is another 3, so they will also be rolling on the 6 to 8 column. Alright, here we go. Let's see how we do here, and I have no combat cards to play. So 11 against Metz, 6 to 8 column, no flanking attack, and it's a 2. It's not a very good roll by the French. It's just not going well. Let's see. We have on the 6 to 8 column, a 2 inflicts 3 loss factors. 3 loss factors here. Actually, even if they had rolled a 6, well, a 6 would have been better because that would have eliminated some cores as well. But they didn't, so 3 loss factors on the 3rd German army. And then the German roll, so on the same column, they roll 5, and so they will respond with 5 and 5 losses inflicted back on the French. So the 3rd army gets flipped. Gets flipped that way, which means it gets eliminated and is replaced with a corps. And then the French, I will choose. So the Germans have inflicted 5 losses, and so you have to absorb the losses if at all possible. So I don't actually have too much of a choice where I absorb the losses because I can't flip a full strength army 3 and then ignore the other 2, when in fact I can. I already have a flipped army, the 3rd army here, and so this one can be flipped as in eliminated, and so we'll do that to absorb the 3 losses. And then you can see it's replaced with a corps. A corps can be flipped to replace 1 more loss. The middle number is the loss factor here, so flipping the corps eliminates, absorbs 1 more loss. So that's up to 4. And then it's still 1, so I can flip it again, which would eliminate it to absorb the full 5 loss factors that the German attack inflicted. So heavier losses on the French side there, but the hope is that the Germans will be sufficiently distracted by having only a corps now defending Metz. So there will be possibility of a French breakthrough there next action phase if the Germans do not do anything. So we'll see if that distracted Doug sufficiently. And with that, it is back to Doug.
So here we are, turn one, Central Powers, action round three, and I'm going to play my German reinforcements card for 3 ops. What we're going to do is mark the German army and Corps Insterburg to move. The Germans in Brussels and Sedan are going to attack Cambrai. So there's my movement that you can see. And I do believe Königsberg can be supplied through the Baltic. So Brussels versus Cambrai. Oh yeah, Brussels versus Cambrai, and then Sedan versus Chateau Thierry will be the going. And there we go with the German roll of 3 and a French roll of 2. So the Germans inflict 4 losses and the French inflict 2 losses, which, since they have to do a minimum of 3, in effect, it's nothing. So Mark will have to conduct his retreat in Cambrai. The Sedan is German 10 army versus French 2 army. The die roll, the Germans roll 5, the French 3, another good die roll for the Germans, inflicting 5 losses, and the French inflict only 2. So in essence, nothing. So it's going really well for the Germans right now. So that knocks the French down and out, clearing Chateau Thierry and creating a big hole and gap in the French line that they're going to have to respond to. They cannot afford to have Verdun, Nancy, and Belfort out of supply. So I would anticipate in Mark's next turn, he will cover that. So let's see, we'll clear the markers and it's back to Mark.
All right, it is round 3, 1914, and the Germans are pressing on, undeterred on the Western Front, and broken through at Chateau Thierry, undeterred by my offensive maneuvers out on the Eastern Front with the 3rd and the 8th Army here, and even by my attack from Verdun and Nancy into Metz. So there's a big hole in the French line. Looking at my cards, I'm going to play Moltke, not for the event, which is unfortunate. I feel my other cards are too weak. All 2 points. I need the 3 points. So playing Moltke for the ops. And what's going to happen this time is I'm going to move these corps to block the German advance, so that they at least will present a roadblock to the 4th Army should it attack them, and will stop the 4th Army bursting through and cutting off, for example, these forces here, cutting them off from supply. And then these armies here are going to attack the corps here and the fortress of Metz, and we're going to try and actually not only eliminate the corps, but actually destroy the fortress as well, opening up the route into Germany, and hopefully forcing the Germans to rethink their assault. All right, so we're attacking, as I said, the French 4th Army and the 1st and 2nd Army into Metz, and then we are going to move out of Belfort. So the corps are on the move to block the 4th Army. It is a bold move because it does leave Belfort unoccupied down here. The 7th Army could move in there and place Belfort under siege and eliminate the trenches, but needs must. And so that's my 3 points expended. So let's now move to the attack on Metz. It's going to be 3, 6, 9 on the army table, but switching to the army table there, it would be the 9 to 11 column, but because I'm attacking an entrenched force, it's going to be on a 6 to 8 column. So let's go back to the main scene, see what the roll is. And the roll is a 6. So a 6 on the 6 to 8 column. 5 losses, very good. Exactly what I needed. 2 of those losses will be absorbed by the core, and the other 3 will be left over, will be just sufficient to destroy the fort. So, and then there's no possibility of the core doing any damage when it attacks back. So, and then we will advance into Metz with the First Army destroying the German trenches there and taking a VP. So that's the French response. Now the Germans will have to respond because now there's a big hole in the German line on the Western Front. No activity on the Eastern Front this turn. So back to Doug to see what he does.
So, in Paths of Glory, we're still in turn 1, August 1914. The Central Powers are getting ready to take action round 4. And for you viewers, this is a little more stilted than our back and forth, I go, you go, Command of Colors Napoleonics games. So we're still kind of working out some kinks, but I'm not sure if Paths of Glory is also a game that might lend itself to a live playthrough. That's always the best fun, but ironically, Mark and I have never played it live. Only played it on Vassal, I go, you go, which kind of the grand strategy games, you kind of want to think things through. So, but either way, we'll do recording here. So I'll click through my log file and narrate the action. As you can see right now, the Germans have achieved a breakthrough here in Chateau Thierry, doing an end around between Verdun and Cambrai. So we've punched through. But the French have gone back from Verdun and Nancy and destroyed the German fort, which was only manned by a corps in Metz. So that was all the back and forth as I attempt to do the Schieffelin plan. So I'm going to have to take immediate action because I've got a hole in my lines in Koblenz. And as you know, in Paths of Glory, if you get out of supply, it's devastating, devastating impact. So let's see. Here's the card that we're going to play. Austria-Hungary reinforcements for 4 ops. So I'm going to put a move marker on Sedan, a move marker on Chateau Thierry, a attack marker on Brussels, and then a move marker also down in Sarajevo. And I think you can just see that on the map there. And I think, oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I didn't go to Sarajevo. I went to Mulhouse. I decided to have the German army that's flipped down there at the bottom because you got to go through Strasbourg if you take Mulhouse. So the Mulhouse army can move up and help cover the line. So he moves up to Strasbourg. My army in Sudan moves to Koblenz, so that covers the line there out of Metz. So either space out of Metz, either Strasbourg down there to the south or Koblenz to the north, I've got covered. So no hole in the line. And then Chateau Thierry backs 1 to Sedan. So all I'm left with now is my attack. It's going to be Brussels versus Cambrai. The Germans have, what do we got here? I'll try and bring that up. Yeah, 8 factors versus 2 for the French in Cambrai. So let's bring the fire table up so that you can see that off to the side there. So that's going to be on the 6 to 8 column for the Germans and on the 2 for the French. So if we can get some good die rolls here, we might deal out a little pain with the French. So let's see what occurs. The Germans roll a 6 and the French roll 3. So that's pretty decent. The Germans are going to inflict 5 losses and the French inflict 2. And again, because the German loss factor is 3, it's in effect no effect, which is great. So the French take their losses, which basically eliminates them in Cambrai. I have a non-flipped unit, German army that can advance to Cambrai, take the space, and the VP marker gets moved to 12. So that was a pretty good result. I don't have any problem at all with that. And now it's back to
Action round 4 of 6, and that the Germans did fall back from Mulhouse. They evacuated Mulhouse actually to go and strengthen their line, but they kept up the pressure with a rather devastating attack against the French in Cambrai, eliminating a French army there. My cards pretty weak, just all 2-pointers left for the rest of this turn. So I think I need to stabilize the Western Front, and I'm going to play a 2-pointer and attack the First Army is rather vulnerable out here in over here in Metz, so it needs to get out of there, I think, because potentially there is a flanking attack opportunity, and big numbers of Germans could eliminate that army. So the French are going to strike first and launch a flanking attack of their own. With these, the First Army and Fourth Army are going to attack the German Fourth Army. So we'll play Russian reinforcements, a 2-ops card. We'll activate those 2 French armies for the attack. And first thing we do is the flanking attack roll. We have +1 DRM, and we need greater than 4. And so, flank attack into Sedan, then the roll is 6, so we easily make the successful flank attack, so the French will get to attack first with 3 and 3, 6 on the army table, and they roll another 6. Well, that's good as you could be expected there. Let's have a quick look at the result on the army table. A second. Okay, we're back. There is the army table. The French attack was 6, and so we're on a 6 to 8 column, and we inflicted 5 casualties, 5 loss factors. That is not quite enough. That will eliminate. That will flip this army here. You'll notice it didn't matter really what the French rolled, or even a 1 would have had the same effect. The Fourth Army is just going to be flipped 1 step. So there we go. And then the Fourth Army will battle back with a strength of 3 and rolls a 4. So back to the chart here. Again on the army fire table, strength of 3, rolled a 4, that is 3 losses inflicted. So the French do in fact have to take a step loss, because 3 is equals a loss factor of one of the French armies. So the Fourth Army takes a step loss here, and so they're just trading casualties there, and then the Fourth Army does have to retreat to 2 steps because it suffered 5 losses compared to the French 3, so it has to go back 2 places. And actually, in consulting with Doug, it retreats back to Koblensk, and the French First Army will extricate itself from that rather tricky position in Metz and will go back to Sedan, which and then retake Sedan and move the victory points up to 11. And that is the end of the round, and it is back to Doug for round 5.
Wow, this battle is back and forth. So now we're still in August of 1914, Central Powers Action Round 5, and we are going to play German reinforcements for 4 ops. And this would be probably a good opportunity to show you my hand. Let me draw that over to see what I have left. And I only have 3 cards left because remember, you can't use reinforcements in the August 1914 turn. So I've got a lot of little cards, but I've tried to overall use my big ops cards to put the pressure on the French to set myself up for when we start getting reinforcements. So here we go. We're gonna get Cambrai on the attack, Brussels with the flipped unit on the attack, and in Koblenz, where we have 2 armies, one flipped on the attack. Um, and then we're going to do a move with the core up there to come down and hold Metz, take back that thing. And we'll make that move first so you can see that there on the board. Hopefully that's big enough. And you see the VP now goes up to 12. So basically, let's turn all the attack markers so you can see that I'm completely focused on Sedan. And I believe I will have flanking from both Brussels and Cambrai. Koblenz is my primary attack, so we'll be able to flank. The flanking rolls a 3, so I'm not sure if I got a +2 or +1 for the flanking, but if it's a +1, it's still a 4 and therefore a success. So the advantage of flanking is I get to do my attack first, and then the result is the French, whereas normally it's simultaneous. So there's 16 on the army table. I'll bring the table up here so you can see that 16 plus. So in worst, I'm going to inflict 5 losses, but I'm hoping to go for 7, which would completely decimate that army. The French will just be on the 3 table, which has a wide range. A die roll of 1 inflicts 1 loss, but a die roll of 6 inflicts 4 losses. Seems a little bit of an unfair CRT, but that's the thing with Paths of Glory. The CRT is kind of painful, especially at the smaller numbers. A lot of attrition. So Germans roll a 5. That's good. And let's see, 7 losses inflicted. Let's go ahead and inflict those losses because this is the flank. Oh, that's right. It is the flank. So we inflicted those losses. Let me make sure I did that right. I'm going to go back a little bit. He starts there with 3. So that's 3 losses, 4 more to go. You eliminate the armies, another 4, and then the core just gets flipped 1. And so then you got to do the attack to determine the amount of retreat. That'd be a 1 on the core table. And I'm not sure I did that correctly. I went ahead and retreated him anyway. I guess because on the core table, as you can see, 1 factor firing, at most, you're going to inflict 1 loss, which doesn't affect any of the Germans and would result in a 2-hex retreat into Paris. I think that's why I did that. So my army in Koblenz advances into Sedan, taking the VP. So that's pretty good for the Germans. I got no complaints there, and that ends that record.
The Belgian army up here has been rather isolated. All the Germans need to do is move into Ostend, and control that, and they would be able to cut off the Belgian army. But they have not played the channel ports action yet, so they cannot end their movement in Ostend. So I guess the Belgians are safer than I thought, but I'm still going to withdraw them, and so they're going to move and fill a hole in the line over here, and then I'm going to go on the offensive over on the eastern front. So Belgians activated to move, and then over on the eastern front, scrolling over here, Kamenets, something, Podolski will be attacking into Czernowitz, the rather vulnerable Austro-Hungarian corps in occupying Czernowitz. So back to the western front for the move. The Belgians march out of Belgium and into France, and going through the BEF corps and take up the station in Amiens, and then the Russians will attack. Now, earlier in this turn, I did play a combat card called Cleave, which gives the Russians +1 DRM. They won that particular battle, so that combat card is still in effect. So there's +1 DRM on this Russian attack, and the Russian roll is a 2. So, well, the 2 bumped up to 3. We have a look at the army table. So their strength is a 3. So it's a 3-column. They rolled a 3, so inflict 2 losses, which I think is just enough to eliminate the core entirely. So the core is and the core is too weak to do any damage, so the core is actually removed, and then the victorious Russians will advance into the space and take another. That's a VP location, as indicated by the red banner. So the VPs move one less VP to the Germans, I suppose. The VPs have gone from 13 to the German side now to 12. And so that's it, and it's back to Doug for round 6 and the final round of the first turn of this game.
So still in the first game turn, but it's the action round 6 for the CP. So because I've taken some losses, I am going to play a card. Let's see, what are we going to do? We're going to play Wireless Intercepts, which is 2 ops for RPs, which gives me 1 German RP and 0 Austrian Hungary RP.
And on to the final round of August 1914. I'm going to copy the Central Powers and also play Putnik for resource points. So that gives me 1 British resource point, 1 French resource point, and 1 Russian resource point, which I cannot use because the Russians have not taken any losses so far. The British, going up to here, the core black dot cannot take any reinforcements anyway, so they will have to be spent over in the Middle East. The French, they've taken lots of hits, but the Fourth Army will flip the Fourth Army for for 1 of those points and bring them back to full strength. Then over in the Middle East, in Cairo, there is a British depleted core, so we'll bring that up to full strength. Shortly, the Turkey will be entering the war, and this area will become no longer neutral. So there may be some use for the forces on the Middle Eastern map. And the Russian, as I mentioned, point is discarded. And then going through the player sequence, then. There's no attrition. Well, actually, yeah, we've jumped ahead. There was no attrition. There was no siege phase. There was no war status phase this turn, and we've jumped through the. We've gone through the Allied powers replacement phase, and Doug in the Central powers will do his replacements, and it'll be back to drawing up the cards. And let's have a quick look at my cards for September of 1914. So here we go. A lot of reinforcements cards. This one here, Rape of Belgium, will move along the war track, so that I will get access to. Well, not right away because I'm at 0 on the war track, but this would move me to 2 on the war track, so it would be halfway to getting access to the next level deck, the limited war deck. But overall, much higher ops numbers than August, so that's encouraging. So once Doug has drawn up his cards, that will wrap up August 1914 turn, and that will be the end of the first episode.